Oringus satellite push satellite craft. Hello to a new episode of ReptilTV. My intro animal for you today is Egernia stokesi. I was just thinking about what they are called in German. I believe it's spiny-tailed skink or Australian spiny-tailed skink. Egernia stokesi 2001. Still somewhat rare in the terrarium hobby, but no less popular. I must admit we don't have them too often either. We will definitely make a special ReptilTV episode about them. Today I just want to show you a bit of Egernia stokesi, the spiny-tailed skink, a really beautiful, rare, somewhat quirky Australian lizard. Today's topic is tree monitors. Here I have one of them in my hand. In this case, the blue tree monitor, Varanus macraei. With tree monitors, it used to be that they were all called species of Varanus prasinus. People referred to all those that looked similar and came from New Guinea as Varanus prasinus. And at some point they realized, or then 2001, at the beginning there was the green and the black prasinus. Then at some point we discovered these blue ones, and then we discovered yellow ones at some point. Then we realized this can't all be the same. And then we split this whole Varanus prasinus complex into the 4 currently existing tree monitor species: the blue Varanus macraei, the green Varanus prasinus, the yellow Varanus reisingeri, and the black Varanus beccarii. These 4 species of tree monitors exist. They all look relatively similar, I would say, aside from the color, with their relatively slender bodies and long prehensile tails, the tails being significantly longer, almost twice the length of the body. They all look similar, and in terms of care, they are all similar. That's why we are summarizing them today as a tree monitor episode of ReptilTV. Now let's talk about the origin of the tree monitors. They all come from the west of Papua New Guinea. You have to imagine Papua New Guinea as this elongated, huge island. And from your perspective, in the west, these tree monitors live partly on the mainland, so prasinus comes from the mainland. The individual colors partly come from some offshore islands that are in front of the west of Papua New Guinea. Essentially, they all have a similar habitat, as one would assume from their body structure: rainforest. They live in the tropical rainforests of Papua New Guinea. In terms of size, what I'm showing you here, the pretty one and the voce are juveniles from this year. The blue voce was a little older. The black one here, Varanus macraei, I mentioned earlier, is perhaps a little younger, around 3 to 4 months old. They will all be about 1 meter long, 80-90 centimeters. A large part is tail. If you have an animal that is 90 centimeter, then it's around 60 centimeter tail, around 30 centimeter at a body. The blue tree monitor, as I said, the one I have in my hand first, Varanus macraei. I hope I didn't just mix that up. So the black one is the beccarii, the blue is Varanus macraei. It will probably be the largest of all, can reach good 100 centimeters, maybe 110 centimeter. The males are a bit larger than the females. So in terms of size, it's a really well-kept, great terrarium animal. And now we will go a bit into terrarium care. As I said, regarding the care of the tree monitors, by the way, here I have a Varanus reisingeri. This is the yellow tree monitor. You will now say it doesn't look like that at all. Oops, that was clever, of course. I have him back, the yellow tree monitor, about this little rascal, except that he likes to run away. The yellow tree monitors are initially quite greenish. As juveniles, they are green-black. And the bigger they get, the more yellow color they acquire. That's why the term yellow tree monitor. Perhaps it also comes from the fact that they were previously included with the green Varanus prasinus, and people thought, well, if they are green as juveniles, they must also be a prasinus. Maybe it comes from that. In terraristics, you obviously need a tall terrarium. That's logical. In our shop, we have these sets, but we don't have tree monitor terrarium sets because tree monitors are still quite rare and the demand is still rather low. But the chameleon sets or crested gecko sets can be used quite well. They are about 90, 50, 90 or 60, 60, 20 centimeters. This is really a good size, at least for raising tree monitors. It is the perfect size, nice and tall. You can set it up nicely. The set already includes the appropriate lighting. What is missing from the set is the heating for the night. You definitely need to add a heat panel. This is a 40-watt heat panel for the sets I just mentioned. You will definitely need the 60-watt heat panel, so one size larger, to ensure the night temperature. So during the day, you need an air temperature of around 30 degrees in the terrarium under the spotlight, also 35 to 40 degrees. And at night, it turns off the light. Then you need to heat with the heat panel to about 23, 24, 25 degrees. Such a nice tropical night temperature is perfect for all tree monitors. Now let's talk about the diet of the animals. By the way, I finally have the green tree monitor mentioned in the intro, Varanus prasinus, the ancestor of all tree monitors. They have this pretty green, an adult animal, adult males. I actually started off wrong. I was talking about the diet. But then let's first talk about the sexes. Adult males, if you look here, it is absolutely clear to see the two thickened hemipenes. In size, it is easy to distinguish the sexes. I would say that from about 1.5 to 3/4 grown animals, you can quite well recognize the sexes in tree monitors. As I said, this is an adult animal. If we look at the length, what will it have? If I am about 180 mm tall here, he is less than half of that. He is maybe around 70, 80 centimeters. An adult male green tree monitor. Where were we with the diet? You feed an adult animal 2 to 3 times a week. Either large insects, crickets, grasshoppers, or roaches are perfect. You can feed baby mice. Tree monitors really enjoy eating snails. You can feed them non-toxic snails. Please observe species protection. Do not collect any protected snail species outside. They eat eggs, and you can give chicken meat, but you have to be careful. In terms of nutritional value, such meat without bones or anything does not have the perfect nutritional value. You can already hear everything about carnivorous food that they can somehow conquer. They eat it well and gladly. I have also read in the literature that they sometimes go for fruit. I myself have never been able to observe this. I have also been offered it, but they have never gone for it. I also asked around in my circle of acquaintances if anyone has experience with fruit. Everyone denies it, and everyone says yes, they have heard of it, but it has not worked for anyone. Maybe, in this case, a question to the community from you. Does anyone have a tree monitor that, if anyone eats a banana every day or something, or I don't know, eats something fruity, that would be interesting, or a piece of mango or something, please let us know. Also, an important point regarding diet. Tree monitors naturally always look a bit thin and lanky, to use the human word, lanky. If you want to check, is he well nourished? Is he doing well? I have mentioned it before, also with other reptiles or lizards. Look at the hip bones. Here at the base of the tail, the hip bones are hidden, and the base of the tail should be nice and round, as in this case. The hips should not be protruding. This is for you. If you should acquire such an animal or see animals somewhere that you are interested in, then look here. Are the hip bones sticking out? It is really a problem. If the base of the tail is as nice and round as in this case, it is a healthy animal. Speaking of healthy animals and hip bones, this reminds me of the next point. When I started with terraristics, there were already these tree monitors under the name Varanus prasinus. Wild-caught specimens were repeatedly imported, and the wild caught ones looked terrible at times. You could see the hip bones extremely. They were thin, emaciated, and many animals died from that. Everything I show you here are of course bred animals. And also in terms of behavior, you see they are all well behaved, they are tame. This one sometimes gets a bit grumpy, but still he is a great brave terrarium animal. It has no problem with me holding it here. This is simply because these are good healthy bred specimens. And if you have good healthy bred specimens, then it is really a super perfect great terrarium animal. This has changed a lot over the last decades. And although the price is still relatively high, for such a tree monitor you have to pay several €1,000. But I think it will become an increasingly important or popular terrarium animal in the future, because a bred animal is a great terrarium companion and can also be bred really well. So, regarding breeding, it has been successful regularly in recent years with tree monitors. Of course, the climate is important, which we just discussed. We partially discussed what I forgot: high humidity. Of course, when we talk about tropical and tree monitors, there must also be high humidity. So a humid, warm climate, a lot of spraying, or a misting system in the terrarium. Exactly. I could have shown you the misting system earlier or included it. We can maybe still do that now. It's certainly an important tool for tree monitors. Then they breed wonderfully. The interesting thing is, they even lay eggs multiple times a year. You can have 2 to 3 clutches per year from the tree monitors. They lay between, depending on the size. If you have an extremely large animal, 5 to 6 eggs. Young females might lay 3 to 6 eggs. So we can say about 3 to 6, but eggs, the whole thing 2 to 3 times a year, that is not unproductive at all. Really something that breeds wonderfully. I would recommend keeping them in pairs. At least if you are lucky enough to get a couple, then that is of course super and optimal. As a terrarium keeper, you might think 1 male and 2 females. I believe that is even more critical with them. The females, when they have laid eggs, are quite territorial. They really defend their clutch against everything and everyone, even against the male or even against the father. The clutch is defended. So one really has to be careful during that time, or perhaps even remove the male. There have often been incidents where the females almost bit the males to death or even killed them. So be careful, and perhaps for that reason not 1 male, 2 females, because there could indeed be some conflict among them. So I would recommend pairs, and then they can really be kept and bred wonderfully. You see, I am really a fan of the tree monitors. Hopefully a nice group picture to conclude at least 3 of the 4 species and colors of tree monitors. To conclude, the yellow one, still green as a baby. We said earlier, just for fun, like with bananas. At first they are green, then they turn yellow, the black and the blue. The prasinus, that was the largest we had. I couldn't get him back on my hands. That was the episode about tree monitors. As always, at the end, a reference to good literature. Bernd Eidenmüller has made a great monitor book. He is really an absolute professional, has described monitors. He described the reisingeri, the yellow one. Manfred Reisinger was a monitor breeder, a gifted lizard keeper, and especially a monitor breeder from Germany, who unfortunately passed away a few years ago on a trip abroad due to malaria. The Varanus reisingeri honors Manfred Reisinger in its name, but I was talking about the book, and I can definitely recommend it to you. And I can also recommend tree monitors to you, incredibly great animals. If you ever have the opportunity to keep and breed something like that, then go for it. Finally, as always, the request, if you liked it, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and then you will always see the pretty animals, and check out the tree monitors.